Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tell Not Show. As always, we are your hosts. We have the wonderful and gracious Kirsha Fox, author of Son of Deception and The White Leaf Child. She's a homeschooling mom of four, gamer, and avid reader.
And my co-host is Julia J.K. Allen, author, editor, and author coach. She's a fantasy and horror author who loves to put magic in everything. Thank you so much for joining.
And we're very excited to welcome MK Hale onto the show tonight. You want to tell us a little bit about them?
Yes, MK Hale writes steamy romantic comedies about dirty talking heroes and the witty women who leave them tongue-tied. MK Hale's romance novels are known for her sassy sense of humor because she believes that laughter is the best medicine, except for, actual medicine. She obtained her English degree from the University of Maryland and plans to write for the rest of her days. Her free time is spent reading as many romance novels as humanly possible and performing comedy. We're so excited to have her.
Yes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, very excited. I actually spent my childhood in Maryland, so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, my dad was at APG, so.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah, loved it there. But who doesn't love their childhood memories, right? So, but yeah, I always loved Maryland. So tell us a little bit about your writing journey. What got you started in writing?
Sure. So I was part of the generation where Twilight hit so big and it got everyone into reading, including me. And so that was kind of my start into romance in general. And I read a couple other things, but basically all the books that I read became romance, and I wanted to write romance. And so I got started in middle school. I wrote my first book in middle school.
Oh, wow,
But I didn't start writing like that new adult romance until I graduated high school. So I didn't write the steamy stuff in middle school, but now I do. But that's kind of how I got started.
Wow, what an accomplishment to write a book at such a young age. I love that. So Twilight got you into reading, writing, and writing romance in particular. I guess, were there any other books that were really like influential for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, that was like the start of my I can enjoy reading. That's wild, like phase.
Right.
And so I mean, the Vampire Academy books. Oh, I love those. The Hush Hush books. There's really. I think I grew up in that phasing of wanting to write. I grew up on like the young adult paranormal romance, which is kind of interesting because I mostly write contemporary right now. But I am starting like a paranormal reverse harem side pen name.
Yeah.
But yeah, like all the classic paranormal young adult romance books that came out, and then plus like the adult ones that I probably shouldn't have read at certain ages. I think like Lindsay Sands, Cressley Cole, like yeah.
We all have those. Our
Yeah,
parents were just happy we were reading.
Exactly.
Right. They didn't really care what we were reading half the time. But yeah, so is there something about just like love stories that really pulls you to the romance genre, or what makes that genre so special for you?
That's such an interesting question. I think romance in general, like it's always full of hope. There's always this happily ever after. At the same time, like I love angst, and like some of my favorite books, it's like you're maybe 70% through and you're still like, I really don't see how they're going to end up together. Like maybe they're already together, but you see how their flaws are going to break them apart. Like I really like that because I think in romance we get comfortable with the happily ever after. So when we can truly like cause the reader so much like angst of like, how is this happening? I really do like that. And the groveling at the end, all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I would agree. One of my favorite books is Pride and Prejudice. And there's, you get to the point where you're just like, how could they possibly end up together, even when they both love each other and they're perfect for each other? And it's just like that, how's it going to happen in 20 pages moment?
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. I love that too.
Awesome. All right. So what do you think is the most important part of writing for you?
The most important part of writing, probably I really like to include humor in my books. I do love angst, but I just feel like I very much love comedy, like that whole realm, stand up, sketch, movies, TV, and everything. And I want to write books that you're either like smiling or sometimes maybe you laugh out loud at. So even though I want the angst and like the sexual tension, I also really want people to just feel kind of a bit of like sunshine while they're reading. I really want to create a happy experience. That's kind of the most important thing for me, is so that someone can pick it up and just like feel kind of better in their life, I guess. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love that. Do you have any tips for writing like comedy into your writing, or writing that levity, that sunshine?
So it's hard to think of tips. I feel like I could try to teach a whole class on like adding comedy to writing. It's kind of difficult to think of like a
Right.
single thing. I'd say if I could have like one bit of advice of writing comedy would be to play, like, other than witty dialogue and everything and studying that, to play with setting is like super fun. Like I was trying to write, well, I wrote, but it's just not out yet. This Thanksgiving romance, and I wanted to put like what are all the locations you can have of like the holidays. And so
Right.
the breakup scene is like they're ice skating, that ice skating, so they're just like shuffling, trying to shuffle away from each other during like this really angsty breakup, but they can hardly move. And so I think that's the thing, is like kind of playing with what's expected, what can be done, and then like where would you put them that would make it the most uncomfortable possible for the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
How to make it awkward. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Do you like character involved stories or plot involved stories more?
So this is something I've kind of had to think about, because I would say 5 years ago, I was all about plot, like, oh, I want to have the most unique ideas plot wise. And then the characters kind of, I didn't maybe develop them as much as I do now.
Yeah.
And so I think that's tough, because personally, I guess in the end, I still choose plot, because I feel like, yes, you can have very unique characters, but like if you have a unique plot, the characters can feel familiar. I mean, there's tropes for a reason, the like grumpy sunshine. You add specific things to make your characters unique, but in the end, you kind of want that familiarity because that's what people search for. Versus like plot, you can really put in a lot more twists on what's usual. And so I guess in the end, still plot for me.
Okay, good answer. I mean, ideal world, we have both, right?
Right.
But
Exactly.
I like asking that question because it's like, it is very interesting to see like the reasons why people prefer one over the other. And yeah, plot can be amazing. I always fall in love with characters, but what you say is very true. Like the grumpy sunshine couple is like classic for a reason. We love it for a reason.
Yes. All right. What do you feel like other authors might neglect in their writing? Maybe something that you feel like you do pretty well.
Something I feel I do well. I don't want to sound too self-centered. I will say like everyone has their own strengths, so it's kind of hard. Like I know I neglect imagery, because to me, I prefer like the dialogue, the fast pace. So if I'm describing a room, it's probably in a few sentences. It's not very lengthy. And then I guess what I'd say that I do well that maybe compared to others would be that comedy, because I've done the performance comedy. I've really studied comedy. So I think it's just, I think I could probably teach that. So I guess I'd have to say that humor aspect.
And writing humor is not easy at all. I always say that whenever anyone does like comedy or adds humor to their writing, I am like kudos, because it is not easy, and you have to wait so long to see if like the joke pays off in the end too. Right. Yeah. So you're like laughing to yourself on the keyboard, and then 3 months later someone finally reads it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you see everything in your brain. You see exactly why it's hysterical. But did you communicate that well enough so that your audience gets it?
Right. So we know that Twilight really sparked our love of reading and writing, but do you have a favorite author, and what do you feel they do really well?
I definitely do. So my favorite author is Kresley Cole. She writes paranormal romance for the most part. And what she does so well, she has a couple books that follow a certain formula, but basically Wound in the Mail, and then The Enemies to Lovers, the way that she crafts it is like the wound that the hero has is somehow linked to who the heroine is. So, like, as an example, one of her heroes, so one of the heroines is the reincarnation of a past hero's mate who, like, super scarred him, like, physically scarred him. And so he's thinking, oh, she's going to be evil just like the past one was and everything. And so then he treats her so poorly. It's very much a Beauty and the Beast retelling, too.
Right.
But basically, I really like when again, it's that, like, how would they ever end up together? Like, there's way too much emotional baggage and too much struggle to go through for them to end up together, but they always do. So it's like a very wild ride, and I think I like that the most, of just also the way she builds the, like, hero groveling. So good. It's always like, oh, I've learned my lesson because you literally almost died due to my flaw. And it was it's like crafted so well each time. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I can tell you really enjoy it because your face just like brightens just talking about how much you love the stories. It's always such a, like, it's a gem when you find an author that you're just like, oh, it gives you the warm fuzzies like that.
Yes.
Yes. And it's funny because even the ones who have a very definite formula, they have sort of a brand on certain types of romances that they do really well. Every single book, they continue to just surprise us again and again. They know what's coming, and yet they still find ways to just surprise and delight us.
Right. Love that.
What have you learned from the writing process?
I think I've finally learned it. It's taken like years, but I think I've finally learned to be patient with the writing itself, with the ideas of building the ideas, with the publishing side. Everything takes time, and like definitely I always feel this way. Comparison is the root to unhappiness. So it's just kind of like learning to just focus on your stories and making sure they're the best, but also knowing that that takes time too. So it's nothing should ever be kind of rushed, I guess.
Yeah, no, patience is definitely something I feel like we all have to practice all the time, right? It's not something that's just like, oh, I magically got patience one day. But yeah, it's having patience with yourself is really important. And I love the idea of like not comparing, because it's so easy to compare. Like,
oh yeah,
so and so writes a book a month and is amazing. Why can't I do that? But everyone's process is different. Yeah.
I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah. Kirsha and I were talking about that the other day, and it's just like, it's so easy to fall into, like, because the imposter syndrome is so strong, and then you're just like, oh, they're so much better than me, though, at this skill or that skill. And it really doesn't do anyone a service, though, to do that to yourself. And so that is really great to keep in mind that we all have different strengths and we all have different things we work on. As long as you're kind of aware of where your weaknesses are, you can kind of use that to your advantage. Like, I like dialogue, and I like, talking and things happening, rather than a bunch of descriptions. But then I know when I'm editing, okay, now is where I think about all the descriptions I need to add in and all of that stuff. And so
I like to compare because I love learning about the way other people do things.
Yeah.
To see if I can adapt and improve my writing and whatnot. But yeah, you run the risk of comparing just a little too closely and being like, oh wow, I'm just never going to get that good, But
because I think
you can't do that yourself.
Yeah, there's a lot of, you need to have a certain amount of confidence when you're writing, in order to like really commit to conveying what you want to write. And so, yeah, if we compare too much and kind of chip away at our confidence. It makes our job a lot harder.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you could tell a new author one thing, what would you tell them?
So it's kind of, I guess, what I just said of like being patient, especially if a new author wants to go the traditional publishing route. It takes a long time because you want to make sure your book is perfect before you send it to anyone, because once
Right.
you get a rejection, that's like it for that story. You'd have to write a whole new book to pitch it. And so I would say being patient with your revisions, being patient with the query letters, the synopsis that you send out, being patient with every agent that might reach out, and just not losing hope. Because I think that, like, there's all those stories about people who hit so big later on, but got a ton of rejections before then.
Right.
So I just think patience and trusting in yourself and just being hopeful. And I think dedication is what separates people who want to write a novel from people who do write novels. It's just,
Right.
it's that, like, I can do this, I will do this, I've now done it type of
Right.
attitude.
Yeah,
That's
I
wonderful advice.
do really like that because it's a marathon, not a sprint, especially for traditional publishing, like you were saying, and like also, like you were saying, you only have that one shot with each person, so you don't want to like rush it and make like a rookie mistake and like close that door on that book, because that, yeah, but like also like you were saying though, like when people talk about overnight successes, there's often like 10 years of hard work that led to that seemingly overnight success. So yeah, patience is a great advice to give. Yeah. I'm kind of rambling today. I'm not articulating myself very well, but you are doing a wonderful job. That's why you're the guest.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. How do you make time for writing?
So that's probably the most difficult question. It takes so much self-control to like make time for writing. The last 2 years I had decided to do a online MBA while working full time, so writing took a bit of a backseat. So I managed to write 2 novels during that time, but it was very difficult. And so it was just like any free time that I had, any school breaks, I dedicated to that. And so now that I'm done with that and I have all this time, I have been wasting it a little bit.
Right.
This was like my month off because I did write, I published one book. I think it came out in July. And then I was writing the novella for Sinful Signings and submitting that. And so ever since I submitted the novella, I've been like kind of, I guess the month of August, I've been taking a break. So I know I'll need to get back to it. It's also kind of difficult to choose which book to write next when you have like multiple ideas and they all kind of fight for attention. So I think I'm in that stage right now. So when it comes to scheduling writing time, I think once I choose an idea, it'll be much easier to be like, oh, I need to go write right now versus like not knowing quite yet which one to go with.
For sure. That makes a lot of sense. Also, rest and recuperation are important to us because we don't want to get burned out.
Right.
Tell us, because you and Kirsha are both doing the Sinful Signing. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about it, like for people who are listening along?
Oh, well, it's a book signing event in Roanoke, Virginia. Will it be your first big event, MK?
Yes and no. I feel like it'll probably be the biggest compared to other ones that I've done. Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. But you've got a couple signings under your belt. This event is very special though too, because you also have, there's a ball that you guys are going to, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's so fun. Do you have your outfit picked out already, or?
I for sure do. Well, kind of. I have like 3 variations of the same idea because I buy things all the time that I have nowhere to wear them to. So like now that there's a ball, like I have a couple options of crazy stuff I could never wear any other time.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Yeah, but I think I want to do, because you're supposed to dress as a sin. So I was like, well, I want to do red, so I guess that's like lust, I was thinking. So
yeah,
some red
fun.
dress whichever one. Yeah.
Right. That's nice that you have options.
And fun with a green dress, green with envy.
Oh, cool.
Yay! I love that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm so jealous. Any excuse to get like all dolled up and wear those things that you've had in your closet. You're like, I can't wait to wear this. I just need the
Yes.
event to go to.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what would you say is your favorite part of writing?
So my favorite part of writing is when it feels super easy. There are like times where everything flows and it just feels like you're more of a vessel that the story's working through and that you're not having to think out each thing. The characters are thinking for you, your fingers are just moving. That's when you feel that confidence of like, oh wow, I must be a writer because this doesn't feel normal to occur. So like I think that's my absolute favorite part of writing.
Yeah, just entering into that flow state and just like the magic happens through you.
It's like when the scissors start gliding through the wrapping paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Magic moment, yes.
You're right, 4,000 words in a session and they all feel really good. It's the best feeling ever.
It really is. It's that high we're constantly chasing, I feel like, as writers. It's just that perfect moment.
Yes. I think we already sort of asked about influences to your writing. Do you ever struggle with writer's block?
I feel like I've definitely struggled with writer's block before. Sometimes I think it's good to because your mind needed a break and that's why you've become blocked. Sometimes I think it's because you've made some decision in the draft that was the wrong one and you have to go back and change it. But yeah, I definitely have. And when I do, it kind of depends on the situation. If I've been writing for a while and now I have it, so I probably need the break, or I haven't written in a while, I'm just feeling blocked because I have to get back into it. What do you do? Sometimes if I feel like I need to ride out the block, I'll just read so many books or I'll just watch so much TV. So I think like consumption of story, I think is what can sometimes heal that block because as writers, you already consume stories, but your mind wants to create them. And so I think the more you consume, the more you're like, well, what isn't out there that I would want to create? So that's what I try to do, but sometimes it doesn't work. So I don't know. Yeah.
No, I agree that we have to like feed our creativity. So I think it's very important to also feed the creativity by reading and watching shows and stuff because if you're just trying to produce, but you're never replenishing that source, then you're going to get burned out and kind of stuck in that mode of like, I know I want to write, but I have no ideas. Because a lot of time, like good artists, they say good artists steal, not in the way that we take and reproduce the same thing, but we get inspired by other things, like other stories. And so watching and reading, you can really get inspired by it. There's so much good stuff out there. And it can really just kind of take hold in your imagination.
Well, that's how everyone in every profession does things. They study people, they see how they do it, and they see how it applied to their own work. You know, football players watch football, they watch plays, they study other players, they, look through history, like they
That's
learn.
Very true, yeah.
So I think it's about doing your own study and, like you said, just feeding that creativity. Not because you're looking to steal, but because you're looking for inspiration. There's certain authors that I'll go back and read because they do something really, really well. And I look at how they do that and try to do it my own way.
Right. There is something to be said about like reading as an author too. It's very different from reading for entertainment. And I personally love reading to like dissect like masterpieces, you know what I mean? Where you're just like, oh, they do characters so well, or they do romance so well, and this relationship is so great. And then breaking it down into like, why is it so wonderful? Like that, I find that so fun. Do you have a least favorite part of writing?
Probably the writer's block. I think the least favorite part would be when it's not flowing, when I guess the self-doubt that comes along to writer's block.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just when you're struggling to get a clear picture of what happens next, just kind of all of that. It's very much a double-edged sword sometimes, where like it can be when it's good, it's so good, and when it's not good, it can really bring you down. So it's just kind of finding that balance, like how I said
Right.
patience before. But yeah, I think that's probably the worst part is when you feel you can't, but you know you should.
Right. Yeah. When you really have that desire to write and you have the time finally and you sit
Right.
down and nothing's coming, that can be such a frustrating feeling for sure.
Or a deadline looms and you're getting more
Right.
panicked by the
Right.
hour. Yeah. I think I wrote two different short stories for the Sinful Signings anthology, and just, so much anxiety of
Yeah.
getting it done, making sure it was good, because the
Mm-hmm.
majority of my books take a really long time to write. So
Right.
writing a short story in a, shorter period of time was a bit different.
Yeah. I feel like those challenges are
Yeah.
good for us as authors, though. Like,
Yes.
if you are used to writing novels, to write some short stories or vice versa. Just getting out of your comfort zone, you can learn so much.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. But yeah, writer's block is very, very frustrating for sure. I had writer's block really bad one time, and one thing that helped me was writing from a character's point of view who didn't have a POV in the book, and just writing a scene from their point of view just kind of like rattled enough stuff in my brain to kind of be like, oh, this is how I can proceed in the story. And then like I also included her point of view in later books in the series because I had so much fun writing it. So yeah, that's one little trick that I can share. But what has been your most significant writing victory so far?
So the one that comes to mind is actually the new book that just came out. It's sold way more than my past books, and I like
Mm-hmm.
haven't advertised it because I went on vacation. I hit publish, and then I went on vacation like abroad for
Oh,
two
nice.
weeks, and then I
Yeah.
came back, and I was like, "Whoa!" So probably that it's this paranormal reverse harem book.
Oh,
And
yeah. What
so,
a
like,
beautiful
I
cover.
think yeah, thank you. I think that, like, that is probably my biggest victory right now of, like,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really pushed it very much, and it's done really well, and so I'm just really, like, happy and excited about it. So I'd say that's probably, the biggest victory right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
congratulations. What an
thank you.
accomplishment. I think that's your backlist working for you, right?
Yeah.
So you have readers that are coming back to read more from you. So that's
Yeah.
always amazing when that happens.
How
Yeah.
many books have you published?
I have to do the math in my head. I have, like, some on my bookshelf. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I've published 5.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
not a shabby number at all.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, each book is a marathon. So
Right.
congratulations on
Thank
5. That's
you.
amazing. Hmm.
All right. Are you reading anything right now?
So I'm actually I was reading the past books to get to the newest one that just came out. So I'm almost at the newest one. I'm like a few pages before the book before it. But Cressley Cole, of course, my favorite author.
Hmm.
She just finished her Arcana Chronicles series, which
Okay.
is paranormal YA, but it's also kind of like steamy. So I plenty of adults love it because they like her adult
Hmm.
stuff. And yeah, I'm really excited. I think it was like a 5 or 6 book series total. I'm not sure, but it took a lot of years for this final book to come out, so I'm just really excited to read it.
Yay! Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. When you're waiting for a book from your favorite author. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What a joy though to be able to read a book from like a new book from your favorite author and
Oh yeah.
yeah, dig into
Mhm.
this. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any writing advice that you really just does not gel with you that you think is not good advice for authors?
Um, so sometimes I don't like it. I've heard authors say writer's block doesn't exist and that
Hmm.
you should just write. And I don't always feel that way because sometimes your brain needs that break. And also, I don't like the idea of throwing away time. Like, if you really feel like what you're writing isn't good, then maybe take a break from it, start something totally new. Because if it's not good, then it almost is like you've wasted your time. You'll have to go back, take all of it out, reform it. So I don't always like that advice of force yourself to write. I think it is good to say, like, oh, write this many words a day. But if you're in that mindset of writer's block, then I don't think you should feel any pressure to keep pushing through it and writing something that you're not passionate about.
Right, especially if the pressure leads to more writer's block, right? The pressure you're putting on yourself.
Yes.
Absolutely. I've noticed that when I tried to do that, I ended up more frustrated than when I began.
Yes.
As I look at it and I know that I'm not happy with the words that I wrote. And like you said, you have to go back and fix it. And then you feel like you wasted your time. And
Right.
it's just so frustrating.
Yeah.
So
really is.
I love the idea of doing something else with that time that might be book related, maybe doing some marketing instead.
Right. Yeah.
Or working on your blurb, like,
yeah.
Absolutely. There's so many little side parts to the writing job that you can find productive time to put towards it. And then, like you were saying, sometimes you just need the rest for your brain to recuperate and recharge.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have, I know we kind of asked, like, what writing advice you would give to new authors, but is there any writing advice you heard that you, like, absolutely love, or?
Something I heard that I really like is it's kind of like a psychological thing where when you build your characters, if you can give them kind of a flaw of your own or like something that they have to learn or work through that you have to learn or work through, it can really tie you to them when you're writing their points of views. And also, it makes the books, like, say a reader with that same flaw or anything like that reads that book, I mean, that can also help them in more than just, oh, this is a good book and it made my day brighter. Like, it can make them feel a lot more seen as well, of like if it's something that they struggle with too. So I guess it's kind of like write something that might help you and someone else can be good. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that advice.
Writing characters that are relatable. For your readers.
Yeah, there's nothing more annoying to me than like flaws that don't impede the character from getting their story goal. They're just like the cutesy flaws, and it's just like, but they need a flaw, like a real one, to like, really that like that, because that's where the character arc and everything gets built. Like the growth, the evolution of the character, how dynamic they are, all comes from their flaw and overcoming it and all that stuff. So I'm like, don't make it cute. Like, I want them to struggle. And because like it does help when you don't have perfect character. Right. Yeah, that helps a lot. To relate to the character, but also to like keep interest in the book, because if they're perfect and they're gonna win, like there's no point in reading the story about how they win, because for sure it's gonna happen. And like you were saying, like sometimes that moment when you're like, how could this possibly end up happy, is like the best part of the book. Yeah.
So where can readers find more about you? Do you have a website, or what's your favorite social media?
Sure. I think all my social media has the same name other than TikTok, but for instance, Instagram, it's at MK Hale Author. And then my paranormal reverse harem pen name, that's at MK Kate on Instagram.
Okay, yeah. And so you published 5 books. Are those all the same series, or are they different stories?
They're different. Let's see. So the first one was the very first one I wrote back in middle school. It's more for like middle grade. That one's called Shatter. It's a paranormal young adult kind of romance. Then I have Hating Him and Disobeying Him. They were originally going to be linked, but then I went with one publisher with one and then self-published the other, so they're not technically linked.
Mm-hmm.
But those are new adult contemporary romances. I've got Timeshare Boyfriend, which is like contemporary rom-com, summer beach thing. So that's not linked to those, but has like age time jumps throughout the summers of falling in and out of love with the same guy. And then Pretty Little Prey, which is like whole new pen name, whole new world that I've tried to create. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that world.
Oh, sure. So in Pretty Little Prey, you've got like your typical predator shifters. You've got dragon, werewolf, basilisk, so like the huge snake that's like super scary. But then in this world you also have prey shifters. So she shifts into this like defenseless lamb, doesn't have any of the super strength, the super speed that those other guys do. And she's used to being hunted like throughout her whole life because she's this prey and hunted by these predators. And so when all of a sudden this like group of predator alpha males are like, oh, she's our mate, we must protect her, she will like try to escape them at all costs, not trusting them at all, and everything like that. It's got some hostage vibes where the rival gang of the other mates like steal her away for a hot minute. So it's I wanted to build a new world of like prey and predator shifters. It's got some like Omegaverse heat aspects to it too. There were like different things in paranormal that I've been seeing, and I wanted to kind of like interweave them a little bit.
Nice. Yeah. Sounds like a wonderfully complex world. I love that. Yeah. World building is great.
Building up a lot of tension.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You've got her fear and their desperation to save her, I guess. And that's very exciting. I also like love the range that you're showing here, where you're showing up like the beachy.
I know.
The beach read, and then like the dramatic.
So different.
Yeah.
They are very different, but I really admire that you can have that range.
Thank you.
Yes, we interviewed an author who said that they want to write in every genre, like write a romance in every genre, I think is what they were saying. And so it's kind of like you're writing every genre in romance. I love that. Yeah. That versatility is what makes our job fun and interesting, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of jump from one project to something completely different. Yeah, for sure.
There is a lot of pushback against that of no, you need to stay in genre, you know. And I don't think that you should put yourself in a box if you don't fit that box.
Right.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think that like they say that on TikTok you have to find your niche to really like be successful. And they say that to authors as well, but I feel like if somebody likes your writing, they might like you doing different things in your style. It's like with art, there's so many different types of art, but you can still appreciate like someone who like redoes a masterpiece or whatever in their style, and you can enjoy it even though it's different from like what else they've done because it's still in their style.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone who's listening along at home. Thank you to everyone who's listening along at home. And remember that there's more than one way up a mountain, and our next episode will be releasing Friday, so be sure to check that out. And if you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can look us up on social media at The Tell Not Show or email us at thetellnotshow@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us, MK, and thanks again for watching along at home. And we'll see you next Friday.
Thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing and liking. We appreciate all the support. Julia J.K. Allen is an author, editor, and coach and can be found at hijinksrudder.com.
Kirsha Fox is an author, avid reader, gamer, and mother to four, and you can find her at kirshafox.com. Thank